Let's talk about what's happening with small business now. We are joined by Bill Lang from Small Business Australia. Big week in Victoria as that ring of steel finally comes down and we turn our attention to our friends in the regions.
Yeah, look, absolutely, Aaron. And, we were up in Ballarat with you only a couple of weeks ago, and they'll be so relieved now to know that Melburnians can head to places like Ballarat, places like Geelong, Bendigo, all the other regions, but also the people that live in those areas are pretty keen to get back down to the big smoke and catch up with family and friends. And Christmas shopping around the corner, we'd love to see a few of them down in the
Yeah.
Melbourne CBD.
Well, what do we need to have happen at the moment? Because the story of regional Victoria is one that many regions around Australia have been feeling for some time. Then, of course, there was the bushfires too. We know that the Victorian government putting together an advertising campaign, but is that enough? The Victorian opposition have been talking about cut price holidays for people to encourage people to get out and about.
Look, I think there's already some surging demand with respect to people looking at real estate and making tree or sea changes. Not to mention, it's very difficult to rent holiday homes and things at the moment in most of the areas outside of Melbourne. So if the market's working, let's let the market work. But if there are other things that can be done to further boost it, where there might be some market failure, things like vouchers, potentially to go to places much further away than Melbourne than a day trip. I think that would encourage people to explore some areas of Victoria that they wouldn't ordinarily, with that bit of extra sort of financial incentive or support to get there.
It's a really good point you make. One of the issues regional Victorian businesses have been saying for a long time is we can get them here, but we need them to stay the night or two.
Yeah, and that's where if you think about things like vouchers, and maybe it's you're more than a 2-hour drive away, and there's a voucher of X% up to so many dollars to have an overnight stay. But as long as it can be sort of claimed not just in sort of hotels, but also caravan parks, Airbnb. The accommodation industry has been hit incredibly hard. There's no international tourist in sight for a long time. So I think those sorts of incentives to get people to go a bit further than the day trip and stay overnight, will bring a few dollars from their pockets into the local businesses.
A lot of businesses waiting for the state government budgets. We're still waiting for Victoria's budget to be handed down, of course. Other states in a similar situation too. What is small business going to need from these budgets?
Yeah, look, I think there's a couple of key things. The first one is around there's a number of businesses in Victoria very legitimately that have suffered significant financial losses as a result of the decisions and quality of implementation of various policies by the government. So there are class actions underway. I think the government should get on the front foot and start settling these, ensuring that there's adequate compensation so business owners can spend more time looking forward rather than sort of being left hanging on the vine.
But the concern that I have though, Bill, is that I get the sense that the governments are going to be talking about big infrastructure plans or tax credits, and neither of those impact small businesses. When we were in Ballarat, when we were down in Sorrento taking our show on the road, we'd speak to business leaders about what was in the federal budget, and they'd say, well, it's all about tax credits, which for small business, you've got to spend a lot to get some back. But in reality, of course, we haven't got any money, nor are we likely to take the risk. We actually need cash, not tax credits, because that turns out to be nothing except for a headache and too many trips to the accountant with bad news.
Look, Aaron, we've talked about this over many, many months now around the need for things to be simpler and to be fairer, and therefore to be better. We've been calling for a direct small business saver package to save small businesses by getting cash directly into their hands, not via JobSeeker, JobKeeper, and having the accountants. And thank you to the accountants and bookkeepers, because they've been on the front line for many small businesses attempting to navigate these complicated and in many cases unfair sources of support, whether it's from the federal government or the state government. So, you're 100% right here, like direct small business injections. What we want to see is the most businesses make it through to 22. That's our new mantra. Let's make it through to 22. And it's time for the governments of all persuasions at all levels to be directly supporting small businesses so everyone can make it through to 22.
Absolutely. All right, Bill Lang. Always appreciate your time. We're off to Bendigo tomorrow as well to talk about small business across regional Victoria. It's also secretly a way to get out of town. Appreciate your time. We'll talk to you again soon.
Look, enjoy the road trip, Aaron.